So it is April the 10th, Sunday night, at some time at night, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 o'clock, and we have the Telsa coil ready to go, minus a big fat power cord for the transformer. We'll be running with this trusty Transco 9000 volt 30 milliamp neon sign transformer just to see where our tuning is. The transformer we will be using at some point is this guy under here, but I want to get the tuning dialed in before we throw the 2,500 watts at it. This guy should only be 200 watts, so it'll at least demonstrate that our connections are good. I cut up the wires today to hook everything up. Got a primary tap that's sorta not really good, but it'll work good enough for tonight. Hopefully we'll run it tonight. We got a primary ground connection. Let me see, this thing's not focusing on that, but that's the primary ground connection that comes around here. We have a little screw terminal there. Comes to a piece of, I believe that is 16th, now maybe even, now it's 16th inch by 5/8 inch wide flat copper bar. Comes down to this bolt here. We have the 1/0 welding cable, which then snakes its way over to the ground connection, and then there's a 8 or 10 foot, I think it's an 8-foot ground rod right outside the building here. I may make a shorter piece just for this, just to get the impedance down a little bit. So we've got the vacuum gap here, and that's set to a really narrow gap just for the first run. I don't want to go crazy with it until I know that everything's going to work the way I want it to. I got this piece of chicken wire attached to the ground over top of the caps. This transformer won't need it. The other one may very well need it. This is only a 4-inch secondary, and it's only 20 inches tall. So when we get the big transformer on it, the arcs are going to be, let's see, even if we only get 6 feet worth of arcs, that's going to be over 3 times the length of the secondary, and it's going to go from this breakout point here, that piece of copper wire, probably all the way out to at least where the workbench is, if not further. So I'm going to have to move it around a little bit to get it away from the walls, and of course the ceiling's only an 8-foot ceiling, so that'll be interesting when we get that far. Last night I made this 3.5-inch toroid. That's black plastic corrugated drain pipe with a plywood center disc with foil tape over it. Well, masking tape, some duct tape, and then the foil tape over it, which is the same thing that the big toroid is. So that's where we stand tonight. I'm going to go get something to eat, feed the dogs. I think the dogs need their food. Do you need your food? I got the control console over here, a tripod for the camera so I can get everything documented. And need to get the extension cord that goes from this big power cord here to the transformer. If nobody's seen the control panel recently, I got actual panel meters in here. This one is 0 to 150 volts AC, and this guy is 0 to 25 amps AC. That's a panel meter without the CT, so the current's actually going through the movement in that. For anyone that hasn't seen this at all, this is an old Hypotronics dielectric test set that's been gutted and rewired and repurposed to let me control the voltage on the Telsa coil. We've got We can switch between the output voltage and the input voltage, which makes it interesting if we're running a big transformer. We can see how much of a voltage drop we're getting off the mains. It tells us whether or not we need bigger conductors in certain parts. This overload breaker is I believe it's a 25 amp breaker. That's the current actually goes through that. These are 50 amp, two 1-pole 50 amp breakers. We've got safety interlocks on the transformer, so if we have the voltage turned up, it won't turn on until we turn it down. And then the contactor goes. This is also this can be wired up as a dead man switch. Remove that and it turns off. So yeah, there's a meter and it goes up and down. That's pretty much all there is to this control panel. We also have an accessory. That's this orange cord in here will let us switch power either automatically or have it on all the time. There's actually a little relay in there that you can maybe barely hear. That's if you've got a triggered spark gap or something like that, or if you have anything else electronic that needs to be, absolutely has to be turned on when the coil is running. I would use that for the vacuum gap, but unfortunately that vacuum cleaner motor will easily draw 15 amps by itself, so I can't run both of those off the same circuit, unfortunately. But you could use that to interface with some other interlock fed off of a separate circuit. That used to be, I used to have a separate input just for that circuit, but then you needed two power cord or two outlets just for the control panel, and I thought that was kind of silly. So it's just there in case we need it. So that's where we stand as of tonight. Hopefully I'll get it back out here later tonight and poke around with it, maybe get some videos of it doing something. This coil hasn't run in, well, it probably hasn't run since 2005 was the last time I had it running the way it should, with the rotary spark gap, 120 BPS with a Telsa motor, and the old 15 kV 60 milliamp transformer, which I'll link to videos at some point of this transformer smoking up the garage. It shorted out at one point. I unpotted it. It sort of worked, but it's not really usable in its current state, and I'd have no plans of fixing that. I think I set it up with that transformer maybe 2007. It's 2006, 2007, maybe early part of 2007, sometime in the winter. I have pictures online. That was the last time this coil ever ran and did anything interesting. We did run it in the garage back at Valley View once, and there are also videos with this transformer, because the other one started smoking too much, and it'll be interesting to see what this does. That was running the rotary spark gap. It'll be interesting to see what this does with the vacuum gap. Should do a little better, but I really want to get the potential transformer out and just bet the farm on the whole thing and see if it works, or if it burns itself up, or we get power arcs to the primary, and it should be interesting nonetheless. So this video is going on 9 minutes now, so this is Andy signing off.